questions on the Facebook or YouTube? Or is there any questions from our guests? I'd like to give the chance for our speakers today first. Do you have any questions? I think your presentation was perfect enough, so there is no questions. Okay, Dr. Ballesteros asked a question. Any programs that Professor Krebs can suggest to IAC to do among economies?
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to let you know, my nickname is Chirp, no Krebs. Yeah, Chirp. Yeah, it's just like bird, right? So if you think of a bird, chirp, 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 you would know that it's me. Okay, like what I've done in the chat box is that I have shared the link to the TPD at Scale Coalition, the website, right? I think what we are trying to do, we are at the tail end of the project now that is funded by the IDRC, right? The International Development Research Center based in Canada, right? So we are actually in the process of disseminating the various knowledge products that we have, policy briefs, white papers, as well as case studies, right? So we are actually quite keen to work with different organizations to disseminate some of these products that we have, to talk to the governments. I think both Director Atta and Dr. March would know, right, that in March this year, we actually worked with the Asian Development Bank as well as the FCDO of the UK to organize an event for basically Southeast Asian ministers, right, with the support of the CMO, of course, right, to actually look at how could we strengthen the education workforce to support the learning of girls, right? So in the next 2 months, we would be actually organizing one with the World Bank and UNESCO for Central Asia, and we would be organizing one with the SUMA in Latin America as well, right? So we want to be able to work with regional agencies in such a way that we are able to localize our knowledge products, both the policy briefs as well as the case studies, which we thought are really, really crucial, right? But I think is to that question too, we have also built upon what we have learned in this project, and we have actually started a couple of TPD at scale projects in the last 1 year. One of them is the KICS or is funded by KICS GPE, where we are working with Uzbekistan, Ghana, as well as Honduras, right? So we are constantly looking for the opportunities to be able to work with governments, working with different agencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the great question, Dr. March, for us especially, and the answer. Do I pronounce correctly? Chirp, chirp?
Yeah, chirp like bird. Chirp, chirp, chirp,
chirp, chirp, chirp. Okay, great. I got it. Chirp. Thank you, Professor Chirp. I do hope that we can collaborate once to the program that you are implementing. Thank you very much. Is there more questions or? How about our sorry. There are no questions on the chat box, but there are so many appreciations from the real-time viewers to Professor Chirp. It's too difficult. I'm sorry. Okay. Is there any more questions from our honor guests?
If I can just add in.
Yes,
My name is Hafiz. I'm from Malaysia, and thank you, Professor Lim Cher, Professor Cher, for the sharing. And what I would like to, this is not a question, this is just a sharing. And what I think you've observed in the Indonesia and also India, the same thing happened in Malaysia. So we have, a similar structure among the teachers. And what is more surprising for us is the creation of, informal PLCs that are, popping up quite a lot during this COVID-19 pandemic duration, where we have, various initiatives like ED Day, digital classroom, which I think, especially the digital classroom initiative, were actually built from ground up among teachers. So that's a very unique kind of like situation that we observe here in Malaysia. Just want to share with you, Prof. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much indeed. Like quite often when we talk to people about TPD at scale, I think there is always this thinking about, because once you look at scale, there's this like association to massive open online courses, right? So we are not saying that we should not be doing massive open online courses, but we are basically saying that we should be able to tap upon these different types of technologies depending on the accessibility that the teachers that we are working with have, right? So we need to be aware that especially for a country as diverse as like India or Indonesia or the Philippines, right? That we need to be aware of that, right? So we need to be aware of that connectivity issue and how we could provide a solution that could address that. One and two, like what the Hafiz have said, we cannot just rely on technologies per se, right? We must be able to build that ecosystem, right? And usually that ecosystem consists of people, right? Of course, in the ideal situation, we like professional learning community to actually sprout out quite informally, right? But it is often not the case because teachers are human beings, right? They have got 24 hours a day. They have got to be a mother, father, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, daughter, son, and they've just got 24 hours a day, right? So we must be able to build some sort of a formal structure, right, in which they could engage with each other and one another. And I think the Philippines one is a fantastic example of how they actually have that learning action cell, getting the teachers to come together in the learning action cell twice per month, right, to apply and to share and also to reflect what they have learned and what they have applied, right? And I think that is really crucial. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz, for question and the answer, Professor Chop. So I'd like to show you my sincere appreciation. Thank you very much for today, for your time. It was very fruitful for all of us. And now I'd like to move to the break. We are going to share a video of our online platform. Is it ready? 아니요.
Sorry to interrupt, but may I have your attention for a second? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Are you having a good break? Sorry to interrupt, but may I have your attention for a second? My name is Myung-sun Park, a Senior Program Specialist of Institute
of our online platform. Is it ready? I'm so sorry. I apologize. I apologize sincerely. Please wait a moment.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Are you having a good break? Sorry to interrupt, but may I have your attention for a second? My name is Myung-sun Park, a Senior Program Specialist of Institute of APEC Collaborative Education. Can you see this screen? If you can, you might be wondering what ISNet is. Let's explore more then.
Sorry, we are changing the videos. I apologize once again. Thank you for your patience. So the ISNet, the online platform, is our very great website that you can check all the schools who are registered, such as elementary school, middle school, and high school. So you can you can search the level of the school first and the country or economy that you want to collaborate, some of the projects that you are thinking. And and I think the video is ready. So let's watch together. I once again apologize for the technical issue.
Sorry to interrupt, but may I have your attention? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Are you having a good break? Sorry to interrupt, but may I have your attention for a second? My name is Myung-sun Park, a Senior Program Specialist of Institute of APEC Collaborative Education. Can you see the screen share? If you can, you might be wondering what ISNet is. Let's explore more. Standing for International School Network, ISNet is an online platform for school-to-school exchange programs. On ISNet, you can find, number one, a partner school to implement an exchange program with, and number two, some projects you may be interested to apply for. Number three, information about other economies and practices in education. Let's take a close look at how each feature works. Before exploring, please be informed that you are asked to sign up on the platform as the services are provided only for members. You can easily sign up on the platform by clicking on Join Us button on the top right of the homepage. Now, let's go to School Network Board first. If you come to the School Network Board, you'll be able to find a bunch of schools as on the screen. First, let's talk about how to search for a school that matches your needs perfectly. Click on a black button with a white magnifier on the middle right. You can filter results by economy, school levels, and types. Let's say you are looking for a partnership with Malaysian primary school. Click on Malaysia and primary school, and then go to search button. Then you can see results filtered as you prefer. After reading out all information available and finding a school perfectly matching with your needs, what can you do? You can DM, direct message, to the school manager by clicking on Contact button. Double check if the recipient of the message is correct and write the body of the message and input the security code, 6 digits, and then click Send button. For your information, the school managers on the platform are not necessarily the school's heads, but those who first registered the schools. Are you concerned if you miss messages or any updates on the platform? Don't worry, you can get notifications to your email account. So please type in the most frequently used email account when you sign up. And what is worth remembering about the email notification system is that you are not advised to reply directly to the notifying email you get because your reply will not reach the center at your email account. Instead, you are advised to visit and respond to the center by using DM feature on the platform. Let's move on to how to register your school on the ISNet. Click School Network and click Register for School button. You'll be directed to a form. The information you are asked to fill out on the form is basic, but very crucial one for your potential partner to refer to. The form is very intuitive and easy to fill out. I'm not going into detail at this moment due to time constraints. And also, due to time constraints, it is a pity that I'm not able to guide you to the other boards. I'm pretty sure that those are easy to access and understand, which are project board and information board. I need you to explore by yourself to figure out more about the platform. Other information that might be interesting to you, we have a membership point system. When you sign up, you earn 1,000 points. When you read postings or school information, or when you DM to your potential partners on the platform, your points decrease. How can you earn points then? You can post postings or leave comments on postings. As it is a prototype at the moment, the membership system will get elaborated. One of the improvements will be Best Member Awards. Best members are selected every quarter by how many points you have at the moment. Please keep your eyes on it. The introductory video is going to an end, and also your break is also going to an end. Hoping that the information is useful for you and looking forward to seeing many of you again on the platform. Your voluntary and active participation makes the platform more valuable. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions prepared for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Park, for preparing the video about ISNet. And now I would like to start our presentation and panel discussion session. Can you share the screen? Our first speaker is Dr. Raynand Malano. He's a principal of Center of Excellence Manila, Philippines, but he has already proven his mettle in educational leadership and management, as he was adjudged Outstanding School Head during the Seal of Achievement and Reform 2021 and was a recipient of Gold Medal Award in Process Innovation and Research through the first Manila Intellectual Property Innovation and Business Incubation Incubation Expo, which both happened this year. Added to his laurels include his speakership stint in EduTech Singapore and a benchmark opportunity for school improvement and best practices in California and Utah in the United States, both in 2019. A round of virtual applause to Dr. Raynand Malano. Let's welcome him.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me, Ms. Yanli? Yeah, so to the host and co-organizers of this ALCoB ICT Volunteer Online Forum and everyone who's in this platform, a pleasant afternoon. So may I now share my screen? All right, you see now, Ms. Yanli, can I start?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Today, allow me to walk you through the best practices that we have in school as we deal on the topic mitigating the impacts of the pandemic in education. The whole presentation will cover the following: from the effects brought about by the pandemic to the mitigations done by the Department of Education, to the regional and division offices, and of course, to things that we did and will continue to do in our school to cope with crisis. The mission of all education systems is the same. It is to overcome the learning crisis we were already living and responding to the pandemic we are all facing. While there have been lots of impacts being mentioned from time to time, I would like to focus on three things as a result of the prioritization meeting I had with the school stakeholders: learning losses, the increased dropout rates, and lastly, children missing their most important meal of the day. Before going further, it is but proper to mention that as soon as the closure of schools took its toll on March 12, 2020, the Department of Education already issued the Department Order 12 series of 2020, which served as the guide for all educators before going on board the new normal in education. The BELCP lays down the direction for basic education for school year 2020-2021, which started on October 4. Aside from principles, basic features, the minimum essential learning competencies, learning modalities, and basis for choosing modalities, implementation specifics are also embodied in appropriate guidelines, rules or directives, and operationalized through programs, projects, and activities. Given this as a blueprint, our school contextualized its own school-based learning continuity plan, which aims to ensure continued academic excellence in our learners. This document boasts itself the school's principles, prescribed lesson exemplars, teaching and learning tools, both adopted and teacher-made. And this same document also illustrates all teachers, parents, and learners' responsibilities, plus schedules of classes, parent-teacher conferences, and in-between interventions. Our school, the Center of Excellence in Public Elementary Education, with school ID number 163445, is located in Tondo, Manila. It has 654 learners who passed through screening examination and dialogue with parents, 180 of which are indigents, supported by the Ayala Foundation. We have 32 members of the faculty with 10 master teachers. And aside from the K-12 learning areas, we also offer self-STEAM classes, integrated language and arts, computer language education, and after-hours program in violin and ballet. But of course, due to the pandemic, this is temporarily shelved to give way to after-hours program in academic difficulty remediation and intervention purposes. For 8 straight months of school closure, which started on March 12, 2020, we made sure that Centex Manila was all set to start the school year right, in spite of the impending non-face-to-face mode of classes and the definitive closure of schools. No matter what happens, we keep a stance to commit ourselves in bridging any gaps that will hamper the quality of education of our young. Thus, we invested on the promotion of remote learning strategies, the enhancement of mixed media learning, and the good use of all possible delivery modes and online tools. But all these posing a great challenge to us, we sought support from our trusted stakeholders. The first to respond was the city government of Manila's mayor, who provided our teachers laptops, and 380 of our learners were given educational tablets. For the first quarter of the school year, we had printed modules for the whole population, but sensing that this would cost us much, we knocked on the hearts of our more privileged stakeholders, the alumni, and some non-government organizations to support us with other needs. At present, with a complete number of educational gadgets that our learners have, we have progressed to full digitization of our modules. If parents would request for modules, though, we are obliged to give them, but for now, they find ease and comfort in using the digitized format. But with digitization comes the challenge of sustainability. That is why we have worked on the provision of monthly load allowance for both learners and teachers. This was made possible through the Ayala Foundation, the City Government of Manila, and from the school fund. This is also our way of supporting them in their after-hours program, which are intended to improve the academic performance of our learners. Our teachers are very lucky to be under the Ayala Foundation Incorporated through its training institute, as they are continuously trained to meet the demands of distance or remote learning. They have been recipients of free webinar trainings and workshops that skill, reskill, and upskill them towards their journey under the new normal. From ease and mastery in the use of Kahoots, Prezi, Slido, Mentimeter, and the like, they also work collaboratively using Microsoft Teams. Their knowledge, skill, and attitude in terms of remote learning, be it synchronous or asynchronous, have always been above par. They also had benchmarking opportunities to schools like the University of the Philippines Integrated System and the Raya Online School. And needless to say, prior to the opening of classes on October 4 last year, the school also separately and distinctly held mindfulness seminars and mental health and psychological support services among teachers, parents, and to our Centex learners. Here, we wished our woes and worries get alleviated, that all the challenges will turn into opportunities, and that we see the beauty of family and friendship in times of adversity. As to this date, the Division of City Schools Manila is in a big battle in curbing the number of increased dropouts, which is now pegged at about 24%. That is roughly about 64,000 students in all. A lot of interventions, particularly in joining active participation of parents, are now being made to reach out to the unconnected, or worse yet, the unwilling. Schools are becoming more aggressive in their drives to win these students back at the last stretch of the school year is about to wrap up. It is great to note, however, that Centex Manila does not have any dropout case. This is perhaps due to the fact that we always put premium in preserving learners' motivation, interest, and engagement in all our endeavors. We find ways to spell a difference in dealing with teaching learning process. Our kids are first in the use of coding and Scratch. Through these, they can be able to create their own games, stories, and even entertainment quizzes. We also have morning circles for discussion before every lesson delivery and application. Just the perfect time to find out how everyone's doing and going. So presenting to you are just some of the works of our students. Our parents' linkages are undoubtedly the best of its kind because of their enduring support, not only to their own children. Our parent stakeholders are aware that they are required to spend at least 30 hours of online support to our school. We call this parent aiding. They also show vigorous support in various virtual meetings, group chats, SMS, and teleconferencing actions. And on the part of our learners, we also conduct quarterly virtual field trips to them through the Ayala Museum Management. Virtually, they roam in parks and shopping malls and learn from museums and enjoy wide-ranging places of interest. Learners are often grouped to give way to healthy discussion on things that they learned and discovered during said activities. Parents and learners alike enjoy this kind of activity because even if it's done online, they've been learning a whole lot. Lastly, to help our learners and families cope with crisis, especially our indigents, we have weekly distribution of nourishments to them through our Centex Food Bank, which is a school version of the community pantries that have sprouted from barangay to barangay, village to village, town to town, and city to city. We continue to gain support for this noble intention. In fact, next week, the Kobian Cat, which is a Chinese company, will be spearheading the distribution of essentials to selected stakeholders. We also extended our veggie growing in school to homes by providing our parents seeds and seedlings. Once grown and ready to harvest, these vegetables or fruits can be part of their meals or they can sell them to the school. We also help our parents, especially those who lost their jobs, become productive through livelihood projects like baking. We even gave cash incentives to 5 heads of families who lost their jobs during the implementation of enhanced community quarantine or ECQ. This was with the support, of course, of the generous teachers and the school administration. With all these notable activities that we are trying to improve on and sustain, we believe that most of which are credited to Bayanihan, which when translated into English is a spirit of civic unity and cooperation. This is what truly propels us to move forward, no matter how difficult the situation may be. Thank you to that shared leadership and responsibility in action. As proven and tested, Centex Manila continues to excel because we always believe that as one we can as one. So in parting, a real change often takes place in the crisis, and this moment holds the possibility that we want to return to status quo when things get back to normal. The current crisis has tested our ability to deal with large-scale disruptions. It is now up to us to build its legacy, a more resilient society, by starting it right at school, right within us. So let us keep the Bayanihan spirit alive. Thank you for your attention. So in case you have questions with regard to the presentation, you can just email me or contact me through my Facebook account. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marlano. During while I was listening to your presentation, I was thinking, I wish I was one of the lucky teachers at your school. And we could, and we could feel you put a lot of efforts to mitigate the pandemic in your school.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing. And next, for the
Email me or contact me through my Facebook account. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Sorry for the technical issue. So I would like to invite Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascua Valenzuela. She's the director of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization Secretariat, the first female director since CIMEO was organized in 1965. She served as the first female deputy director for program and development of CIMEO Secretariat from July 2015 to March 2019. And she led the Educational Research and Innovation Office of CIMEO Innotech from 2006 to June 2015. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. Dr. Ethel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Dongsun Park, lead shepherd of APEC, and our dear friends from APEC, Dr. March Ballesteros from the Philippines, our dear and distinguished speakers, Dr. Chirp, and also the speaker before me who really shared very good model. Congratulations. I am Ethel Agnes Valenzuela. I am representing CIMEO. Let me please upload my PowerPoint presentation. So you have invited me to talk about teacher competencies and student assessment in Southeast Asia. So my perspective will be regional and our aspirations. So we have been working with 11 member countries of Southeast Asia. Apart from that, next we have our members who are not from Southeast Asia, but they are countries who are working with Southeast Asia. We have Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Germany, Spain, and we also have organizations or institutions working with us because the mission is great. So to contribute to the capacity building, we have 26 regional centers spread out in the whole region. They do training, capacity building for teachers, technical assistants, regional forum, research and development, journals, development, partnership in education, in science, and in culture. So what is our regional agenda in terms of teacher quality, teacher professional development? So as you know, we are supporting ASEAN in its goal for integration, ASEAN economic integration by 2025. And we have also adopted our 7 priority areas, which starts from early childhood care and education, that all countries should have all at least 1 K or kindergarten education. And then we have addressing barriers to inclusion, inclusive education. We have also there teacher education, revitalizing teacher education, which is the focus of my presentation. So we anchor the regional agenda to the next, which is the international agenda. So from countries to the regional agenda of ASEAN and CIMEO, and then we go to the international agenda of SDGs, which was adopted since 2015. So it has 17 goals, but I will be talking more about the next slide, which is actually on goal number 4, which is to ensure inclusive, equitable, quality education and promote lifelong opportunities for all. This is our concern. So next slide, this is our discussion for today, target 4.C. By 2030, we would like to substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation, such as training between and among countries, and also giving assistance or scholarship, especially to the least developed countries or even small island developing states. This is the goal for teachers in our region and maybe all over the world. So next, what is the situation like? So in the last study, 2 in 3 children worldwide participated in pre-primary education. So it is not yet all, it's not yet for everyone. at pre-primary education. And in the least developed economies, ratio is 4 in 10. And in 2018, 90% of primary school age children in low and middle income economies were enrolled in school, but many, I emphasize many, are in schools but are not learning. So that is a big problem. So despite these gains, because we introduced education for all in 1990s and 2000, we gain a lot from enrollments. There is a massive enrollment of kids, but the problem with this high level of enrollment, we have found out that there are still youths who could not access. There are still children who are still not in school. And this high percentage of children or kids are actually in sub-Saharan Africa and in some parts of Southern Asia. So next, another situation is many of the kids in school, of course, plus out of school, do not acquire basic skills in reading and mathematics. So, well, of course, rich kids can have tutorials or extra, learning programs. So 20% of them have the bigger chance to be proficient in reading. And in secondary education, we also see, the poorest 20% of household are not really in quality education. And so the urban children, the rich children, score higher than those in rural areas or poor children. So next we go to the lack of trained teachers. We're not saying that the reason for this is the teachers, but there are, in the study, there are many who are teaching the subjects they're not trained for. And there are also poor conditions of schools. Some are in remote areas, some are in far-flung areas. And they all add up to the quality of education. And of course, the basic services like electricity or water and connectivity are not there. And the average percentage of schools with access to computers and the internet for teaching is relatively low. And then we have the pandemic. So before the pandemic, it's already a problem. So for quality education to happen, we need quality teachers. And of course, the support, teacher support. So let's look at the model, the next one. So in our discussion in CIMEO, during the CIMEO Congress, we talk about the theory of change. How can we reform education? Well, we can align, advocate, and support so that we can have better quality of education. And we can use SDG as indicators and benchmarks. There are priority policy areas from kindergarten or pre-primary, basic, teacher training, education expenditure, and equity of education. And then we look at the success. So we need ICT today because we are in the pandemic. And even before pandemic, we've been working hard on ICT in education. But we need policymakers who are AI ready or willing to accept all of these changes in remote education and training. And teachers are working very hard in adapting to the challenges of the pandemic. So this is something that we have discussed during the CIMEO Congress, and we are coming up with a declaration for our region. We need to recognize the hard work of teachers, and especially the fast transformation. So in teacher quality situation, we see that 1 in 4 primary teachers were not trained. And then there are many short-term contracts. Those who are not really given this item, we call it teacher item, but they are hired to teach, especially in remote areas, in villages that nobody would like to teach or go. And there are also increasing numbers, especially higher education. We have a lot of part-time teachers, more than the full-time teachers and the rest. So these are also our concerns in achieving quality education. We also need the type and quality of teacher training provision because, some of those are not prepared to be teachers, but they can be trained. There are a lot of pre-service and in-service training that can be given. And there are also good practices we can learn from, such as those presented by CHIRP or some models like that. So next, let's go to the CIMEO plan. So we have the CIMEO Strategic Plan 2021 to 2030, which will be endorsed by next week in the ministerial meeting, which we're preparing now in my other computer. And we want to revitalize teacher education and make it a priority of choice in all member countries. So it takes a village to raise a child, right? So it's not just the role of the ministries of education. We need you, we need the community, we have the coalition, we need the coalition, and we need everyone, the alliances, in order for us to really support teachers in teaching and have it impact on instruction and subsequently student learning. So next, I will show the framework for effective teacher policy, which was done with UNESCO International Teacher Task Force, where we are also co-chairing the ICT and distance learning. So what is the framework or policy framework which we're introducing to our member countries? So number one, of course, set clear expectations for teachers. What is the standard? What is the way to achieve better quality of education? How do we attract the best in teaching? How do we prepare teachers with useful training and experience? And how do we match the competencies of teachers with the skills of students? And lead teachers with strong principles and monitoring teaching and learning and teachers' support to improve instruction and motivating teachers to perform. So this is the framework that was developed by International Teacher Task Force, and countries can revisit whether they can achieve that. For our own region, we have tried to do our Southeast Asia Teacher Competency Framework that is more relevant to Southeast Asia. And in this particular framework, each one of those components would have training built in. So we do online training or face-to-face training for each of those components. Let me discuss what are these competency framework. Next, so the number one is knowing and understanding what to teach, helping students to learn, engaging the community, and becoming a better teacher every day. It's more professionalism. So in details, these are the essential competencies of teachers. You know and understand what you teach, whether you are in pre-COVID or COVID time or after COVID. You need to have subject matter specialization. You should learn trends and policies and curricula and have yourself updated. This is teacher professional development, national, regional, and global developments. But you're not just a teacher if you're a subject matter expert. You need to help the students to learn, to know your students, and find out the most effective teaching strategy, assess and give feedback on how students can learn. So that's what we thought of as the competencies of teachers. Next, become a better teacher every day. There's always a way to improve and achieve success in teaching. So master your teaching practice, human goodness, your personal ethics, and knowing yourself and others. And now we have proven that during this time of pandemic, engagement with the community is really important. You have to encourage respect and diversity, involve the community and help the students learn, and partner with parents. During this pandemic, many parents are becoming teachers in home-based learning, and they're really keeping up and helping the children to learn in these most difficult times. So these are the Southeast Asia Teacher Competency Framework. During the pandemic, we are all not equal in Southeast Asia. Many are in different levels of development, different connectivity system, different health system, and human development. Some are above, in terms of Human Development Index, and the others are struggling. And the connectivity also differs from above 50% and below 50%. So this is our region. And next, we did a policy forum for ministers, and the ministers have shared what they are currently doing in terms of shifting from the traditional face-to-face to the current situation. And all countries are using online, home-based learning, printed learning materials or modules. No one left behind policy for the pandemic, psychological support during the pandemic, all of them. Other countries are more, proactive. They added internet subsidy. They also have free access for online education application and TV broadcast and radio, all of these. So you can see that the approach is different from each country, but basically all of them, 100%, move from traditional to remote teaching and learning, hybrid learning, or a combination blended learning. So teachers now have the option to learn on the job, to learn from the colleagues. They join a lot of online courses or Coursera, TED Talk, everything. You can see them spread out just to help themselves during the pandemic. And there are also structured learning sessions for teachers that were hosted by the schools, and training sessions on the use of remote education and watching relevant videos and having their own LMS, sometimes developed by the ministries or the others. So this is like a fast track to ICT in education. And next, I would like to share that we currently finished the regional assessment in Southeast Asia. And this is the first regional assessment that we have implemented. And it is really hard work since 2014 when the ministers endorsed it. We have developed our test items. We have trained our assessment specialists in the region, and we have done field trial and the main survey. And this is out. The report is out. You can download from our website if you're interested. But what is the result? So children in Southeast Asia at grade 5 level, it's alarming. There is poor learning in most countries who participated in our assessment. So 2 to 50% of children are only able to read and write simple words and do basic mathematics. Many are really low performing, and high-level performance difference is large in mathematics from 8% to 91%. So some countries are really 91%, but in some others as low as 8%. So across 6 countries, 2 out of 3 children do not achieve the minimum competency levels. And in 4 countries, only 11% less in reading and 19% less in mathematics achieve this minimum. So we really have to address learning loss and learning poverty during this time of pandemic. I think different assessment system, but all in all, the real concern is children are not learning. And we need to do a lot of intervention for teachers, for students as well, and even the principals, the school heads. It's really the whole community that we need to equip more in terms of capacities and competencies. So I think learning poverty is here, and due to the pandemic, we emphasize the role of teachers. Well, poor learning is really something that is just right in front of our eyes when we saw the assessment system. And we need a comprehensive system to address this one. So learning poverty maybe is the first time some of you heard it, but the low performers are actually something that we need to reach out. So we need to rethink the way we bring school and education to our children. And reading matters. So learning poverty is measured by reading, competencies, and also out of school children. And if kids are not reading, they could not even achieve in other subjects. If they cannot read in their local language, if they cannot read in English, if they cannot read, they will not be able to perform in many other subjects. So it's a foundational skill that we should also address. And well, if you really make a child a reader, it will spark opportunity for a lifetime. So we are moving forward with the post-pandemic resolutions and declaration to ensure inclusive education and to focus on well-being of children and social and emotional learning. So we need to provide access, we need to coach teachers, we need to elevate their motivation and to sustain partnership with the community, with parents and everybody, because all has a responsibility to bring education for all, and all is for all. So that is my sharing from Southeast Asia, and thank you very much for inviting me in this session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ethel. Thank you for sharing your presentation. It's very important to enhance teachers' competencies and make all teachers qualified, no matter where they are based in the big city or countryside or islands. In the relation to this, it's very essential to have such a forum or gathering between economists like today's webinar. Thank you for coming and sharing your ideas. Thank you. And for the next presentation, I'd like to invite Ms. Lakshmi Oktarini. 이거 아니에요. 다른 거 필요하실 것 같아요. 그럼 이미 해버렸네. Okay. So, Ms.
Rahmi Oktarini.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
like to introduce you first. So, Ms. Lakshmi Oktarini is an English teacher in a state senior high school in Central Java, Indonesia. She has been teaching for 17 years and she's now doing her master's in education, English education. She likes to learn new things for improving her professionalism as a teacher. So she often takes a part in training activities or workshop. Last year, she joined AIV virtual training workshop. Let's welcome her for the presentation.
Competencies, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to the changes of teachers' competencies and student evaluation. And that's all happened, what I have experienced in my school. And then the last will be the conclusion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 broke out at the end of 2019 and has spread out quickly throughout the world. This major public health emergency led to a dramatic change all over the world, affecting all aspects of social life, including education. In order to stop the spread of COVID-19 to school and ensuring the safety and health of teachers and students, most of the countries have changed their teaching methods from face-to-face to online. The condition is also happening in Indonesia. The closure of school was started in March 2020. Emergency distance learning as a temporary solution. So schools and teachers had rapidly and suddenly to adapt it. And then I'm continuing to talk about what are teachers' competencies. Competencies are the skills and knowledge that enable a teacher to be successful. To maximize student learning, teachers must have expertise in a wide-ranging array of competencies in an especially complex environment where hundreds of critical decisions are required each day. I got it from Wikipedia. And then, as a teacher in Indonesia, according to Article 28, Paragraph 3, Government Regulation number 19 in the year 2005 on National Education Standard, and Article 10 on teachers and lecturers, they must have 4 basic competence, such as pedagogy competence, personal competence, social competence, and professional competence. And I read from Stacy Ziegler article. I also got some list of teachers' competencies. The first, interacting well with students, just like what I got from Simeo for the previous presentation. And then creating a learning environment, good at lesson plan design, able to use varied teaching strategies, able to assess, able to identify students' need, good at communication, able to collaborate, maintaining a professional appearance, and demonstrating a commitment to the profession. And now let's go on to talk about the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic to the changes of teachers' competencies and students' evaluation. Well, from the above expense of teachers' competencies, both teachers' competencies according to National Education Standard and Stacy Zager, it is clear that there are a lot of competencies should be mastered by a teacher. COVID-19 pandemic has brought some changes on the teachers' competencies. So what are they? I took from Indonesian's competencies. I got in 4 basic here. For the first, I would like to share about the pedagogy competence. Talking about the pedagogy, it is related to the teacher's ability to understand the learning process and also require a teacher's skill in designing a learning program. Before the pandemic, my lesson plan must be for face-to-face activity, just like what I've done here. I got a discussion here, or maybe I can also take some role play in the classroom directly. But now, in the pandemic, my lesson plan has to be changed to the online activity. I have to adjust myself rapidly as a newcomer in the digital world. Joining some trainings or webinar about how to engage online class were really helpful. I have joined mentoring program from Pearson Indonesia, Dahuni Foundation, where I can get skills and knowledge on how to construct good lesson plan which meet the students' need. Ministry of Education and Culture of Indonesia also provide a link of Guru Belajar and Berbagi program, Learn and Share Teacher program. We can share our lesson plan here, and we can also get other teachers' lesson plans from throughout Indonesia. And the ministry also allow all teachers to follow some webinars or online training by joining the program from the government. Subsidized internet quota are also provided by the government, so all are free. And then second, go on to the personal competence. A teacher must have so good attitude and personality if you want to talk about it. Teacher will be imitated because teachers are believed to have knowledge that is beneficial for the survival of their students. Moreover, my school branding is a character-based school. Before the pandemic, I could show more example of good attitude and personality directly. The students could see good gestures directly on how their teachers show to them how to do something, how to do anything. The students could also do some school good habit programs. For example, every morning, the school will be started by join prayer and sing Indonesian national anthem. It will be started in 5 minutes to 7 every morning. As an effort to raise our student religiosity and nationalism characters. But now in the pandemic situation, it's changed to be online. So the solution, one of the solutions here, for example, I want to tell them how to increase their nationalism. So this one, I will collect my students' picture using Canva application or using Tribune link and use it as a campaigns of nationalism. And then the third, social competence. The ability of teachers as educators to communicate and interact well with the citizen of the school as well as the citizen where the teachers are located and the social interactions of teachers with students, fellow teachers, and the community where she is. I have joined a community in my regency, and the English teachers association since 2004, about 17 years. Okay, just like what the professor talked before, MGMP Indonesia as Teacher Association, and KKG for what I said, primary school teacher, but MGMP for junior and senior high school teachers. Here we can share or disseminate some skills and knowledge or information. And in this pandemic situation, we still have some collaboration with other teacher or institution. English Teacher Association in my regency, or the professor also called Kabupaten in Bahasa Indonesia, has maximized the using of social media because it is common for using Telegram and WhatsApp group in Indonesia. We can also use real meeting platform to communicate. We also have a MOU with a university to arrange some professional development programs in our regency to improve our professionalism and demonstrate a commitment to the profession. And then the fourth, about professional competence. Talking about professional competence, it talks about the ability of a teacher in managing the teaching and learning process. The ability to manage to learn is supported by classroom management, mastery of learning materials, teaching strategies, and the use of learning media. The pandemic has forced the teachers to study harder to master technology. Being a newcomer in the digital era is not easy. Once again, that we as the teachers will realize that we are newcomer in the digital era after the pandemic here. They participate in various trainings about how to engage students in online class, mutual mentoring program. For example, as I have experienced, I got a chance to join the APEC Learning Community Builders. It was given in the 2020. I have learned a lot here about novel engineering, coding, and also how to make good cooperation proposal. And our school also have registered to ISNET, but we have, thank you, but we haven't make a policy, our headmaster haven't made a policy what school will be cooperated with us. But you see, I can't wait too long for having some cooperation to the schools in other countries. Besides that, I also joined the mutual mentoring program from Pearson Indonesia, with given some trainings regularly, twice in a month. And then from Dahuni Foundation also had given us some chance to learn more how to conduct the English online learning. By joining the programs, we hope that we can quickly adjust to this era and can improve our professional competencies. And then the challenges showed off when the physical classroom transformation into the virtual, based on the data from Ministry of Education, showed more than 1/3 Indonesian students have limited or no internet access, although the government had provided subsidized internet quota. And they live in rural with limited availability devices like smartphone or laptop to support distance learning. And then the problem also, lack of support from the parents also give bad impact to the success of the learning process. Asynchronous strategies applied for no internet access, like to the TV zone or local radio broadcasting to deliver distance learning that is supported by the Ministry of Education and also some activists from this regency. The school also facilitates the students who wants to use school computers and free internet access. And then go on to the student evaluation. The changes also happened in the way of students' evaluation, face-to-face to online. So what we do? Before the pandemic, we use Kahoot in the classroom. We have applied it. We have introduced Kahoot in our school and also in my English Teacher Association. We had a training in how to use Kahoot in our classroom because it's such a, a good and fun activity to be applied in our classroom. So the student will be more active here. But in the pandemic, we try to maximize the usage of learning management system. We have learned how to use Google Classroom, Quizzes, Microsoft 365, or the latest is Moodle. And we try to integrate the evaluation by using social media. For example, in the procedural text material speaking evaluation, I gave them the example of my own video. I also shared my video when I use coding, when I construct the thing from AIV, thank you. I also applied it to my class. And after that, I asked them to make their own video, an activity that related to digital technology. And then after that, we will discuss the problems, what are the difficulties when they are constructing it. And after finishing theirs, they will upload it to their social media through Instagram or YouTube, because in their view, using social media will be more fun. So I can evaluate their speaking skill through that media, giving them my like, my thumb. It makes my students happier. Actually, the rubric is still the same with the face-to-face evaluation, but sometimes I was subjected with their video. Some of my students have good ability in video editing. So I have an idea to add video editing as one of my rubric. I will add the marks here from their editing. Or in browser material, they are also very good in using some applications like Canva, PixArt, or etc. Besides, we have to realize that our students also got some problems. Teachers identify the main problems they had to handle. No internet access in some students' area. I have told you before, although the government have sent us subsidized internet quota, but some of my students couldn't take the beneficial of it because they live in a very remote area, in a mountainous. Some of the location is in mountainous area. Lack of adequate equipment for students. My school, we the teachers collect our money, our money, 2.5% of our fund, and then we bought about 3 or 4 handphones to be used by our students, because we see that actually my students have support, have spirit to learn more, to learn better. They don't want to reluctant, but they don't have enough equipment. So most of all the teachers just collect the money to buy them handphone. And the lack of time. Some of the students told us that they lacked of time. It is why, after we tried to discuss it with their parents, also the students, some of my students are addicted with the online games. And you see, I feel sad. I feel sad when I have to talk about it, because we try to eagerly to solve the problem, but they don't want to, what is it, to release their time for studying, but they say that I don't have time, mom. I don't have time for finishing the task. I don't have for following the class. But after we check it, they are addicted. They addicted with online games. And then lack of support from parents. Yes, of course. Some of the parents go to school. Go to the work in the in this finance. Sorry, that there are so many problems in the financial, I believe it, for most of the parents. So they just left their children at home without any guidance. So the students just spare the time. Yes, some of my students, we had identified there are about 22 students from 1,070 students in my school. So the students' participation in assessment has decreased. Finally, besides we visit them in their house or call their parents, and we also make a WhatsApp group with the parents to talk about it. We also invite the students to come to school, but only maybe a day, 4 or 5 students to come to school to use the school facilities and help them reaching the time in evaluation. But you see, it is the example of one of my students. We invited him to come to school to get the evaluation, but he just fell asleep here. After going up, I asked him, why did you fall asleep? He said that he was tired after spending the whole night by playing online games. You see, as a teacher, I feel so sad for knowing about it. And then, the changes is not only on the assessment and learning process, but on the character building. When we met the students like this one, for example, this one who fell asleep in the evaluation. We also found that there are many students who don't care about the appearance or the attitude. Some of my students have long hair. For the boys, long hair, about 5 or maybe 7 students. And we gave the money because I myself experienced yesterday. I asked my student, do you have money for going to the hairstyle? No, ma'am, I don't have money. So I also asked the school, my philo teacher to take the collected money to the students who want to go to the hairstyle and to cut their hair. And then, about their attitude, okay. We have culture. We have culture. How do we respect others? But some of my students, when they come to school, it seems that some of my students also forget how to respect others. They don't, they don't care where the teacher is, although I was in front of him, but he just kept silent without saying anything. And then the gestures is really inappropriate for me as a teacher, as a Japanese teacher. That's all what I have told to you about the impacts of the pandemic to the teachers' competencies and also the students' evaluations. So I would like to conclude for what I have explained, that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way people interact and social life, included in education. The conditions also speed up the use of digital technology in education and connect many disciplines of knowledge. The changes of teacher competencies and student evaluation in micro level are focused on distant learning and also the character building. how to teach and use ICT, as well as training teachers to become a digital teacher, as the level of competence among Indonesian teachers is relatively low. As a newcomer in digital era, both in terms of their subject matter and pedagogical knowledge, however, we can call the students are actually the digital world native, because their knowledge about the digital world is sometimes better than the teacher. And the 21st century skills experience will cover when teachers use ICT to support the higher of thinking skills, active learning, collaborative learning, and cooperative learning. Developing technological content and pedagogical knowledge is needed to support Merdeka Belajar concept in Indonesia to be more practical, efficient, and effective. Thank you. So we must be ready for all changes. You can contact me in my email, rahmioktarini@gmail.com. You see my picture here. I use face application. It is the example of the changes you see before the pandemic, and this one is in the pandemic. Thank you. Unmute, please, Sayan.
Do you hear me now? Oh, okay, great. Sorry. I was saying that thank you very much for sharing your experiences in 4 different competencies: pedagogy, personal, socio-professional competencies, and also the difficulties that you're facing during the pandemic. I do appreciate your tremendous effort working hard for your student, and your sharing touched all of us, I guess. And I'm sure that real-time viewers also were facing the similar difficulties at their school and agree to your stories. Thank you very much. So for the next, finally, I can invite our honored guest for the panel discussion. Can you share the screen? So, I'm sorry. So the moderator would be Ms. Noor Morakot Tawitong, the Assistant of Director of Student Affairs English Program, the demonstration of a school of Suan Sunanda Lazahat University. And sorry. Yeah, and the panelists, Professor Dr. Mohammed Hafiz, Director of Lab School, Sultan Idris Education University, Malaysia, and Mr. Hyunbin Im, teacher, School Technical High School in the Republic of Korea. Please welcome her for the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the panel discussion. First of all, I would like to briefly introduce all of us. So, myself, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone, every teacher all around the world. My name is Ms. Noor Morakot Tawitong, and now I'm working in Bangkok as the assistant of the director, demonstration school of Suan Sunanta Ratchapat University, and I am also full-time teacher, researcher in education too. So today our sections will be panel discussion. I would like to introduce our panelists today. First, I would like to introduce, just a minute, please. Okay. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Hafiz Hanif. Dr. Hafiz is the director of Lab School Sultan Ilis Education University, Malaysia. And as you see, he has a lot of experience. He is professional in the area of education and technology education. And also he using web-based technology to publicize and increase interest of history. You will see he has developed a lot and have a lot of projects. So please welcome Dr. Hafid Hanif. And the next one, I proudly introduce. I will share his CV to you. I would like to introduce Mr. Im. He is the teacher and he is an award-winning teacher from Korea. Also, he is the researcher into education success and innovation. He has a lot of experience and award. So today, first, I would like the panelists share experience and opinion about like 5 to 7 minutes each person. Then we will ask some questions for each. First of all, I would like to pass over to Dr. Hanif first. Please welcome Dr. Hanif.
Right, thank you, Ms. Noel Morakot, for the kind introduction. Yeah, I would like to share some of what I know about the challenges in learning environment, barriers and challenges to overcome. So it's about changes in learning environment. Okay. So let me maximize it. All right, okay. So in today's sharing, I would like to look into what changed in our learning environment pre-pandemic COVID-19 and the currently that we are actually experiencing right now, while the pandemic COVID-19 is actually at large. What changed and how it is impacted us as education and educational practitioners in all over the world, I think. And the most common components that are usually found in a learning environment, we have the culture of the classroom or the interaction. We have next the technology, the pedagogy, and also teachers and students. These are, the more common components that are found throughout, I think, everywhere in the world in regards to whether it is online, it is face-to-face. So these components are usually found. All right, so when the pandemic COVID-19 hit for Malaysia, it started around March 2020. The pandemic disrupted a lot of things, including the education sector. So we had, and I think we are still having school closures, and most of the instructions that carried out during this pandemic COVID-19 duration were carried out, online or either hybrid learning. And previously, before the pandemic era, if I can say so, the teaching and learning experiences or activities were done, mostly mainstream face-to-face method in classroom. Only few occurrence of blended and also fully online, unless they are experiencing the ODL, open or distance learning. But when the pandemic happened, everything is disrupted. So the teachers are finding themselves, in the middle of, trying to get online classes boot up and things like that. So everything from culture up until the teachers and students are disrupted. So we look into each of the components that are disrupted. First, the impact of on the culture of learning. So when the transition from the face-to-face learning to online or hybrid learning, there are certain facets of the interaction, of the pedagogy, of the technology, of the culture in the classroom are not easily augmented in the online or the hybrid kind of like settings. So for example, thinking habits. So this is impacted, like if we hear clearly what Mrs. Rahmi has shared just now, the psychological state of students, it is heavily disrupted if we compare between face-to-face and also online learning right now. Collaborative learning is also disrupted. It is possible to actually carry out collaborative learning, but it needs a mash up between several tools and technologies that might be tricky enough for the teachers to navigate and also for the students to follow. And this also impacted on the teachers and student psychology, not just the teachers. The students also are having an impact on their psychology. More and more students are disinterested in following the lessons, and here we need cooperation from various parties. Like, for example, if the students are at home, then we need to have the buy-in from the parents to actually help us, the teachers, to deliver a proper teaching and learning experience for the students. So that is for the culture. In regards of the technology itself, the move, I think majority of us had the opportunity to try out and to actually carry out online or hybrid learning, and this has become mainstream. Before the pandemic, it was optional, but right now it's something that the teachers finding themselves again and again, day in, day out, needing to actually carry out online learning with the students. And for the positive side of it, there are a lot of adoption of technology tools during this pandemic COVID-19. But in the negative side of it, because the tools out there on the internet, there are a plethora of tools out there that teachers can leverage, but there are not many tools to that has integrated functionalities all in one. So as a result, the teachers need to actually mix and match between different tools to achieve their own instructional design, and this often resulted in confusion among teachers themselves and also the students, because the students had to move from jumping from one platform to another to to achieve certain task or assignment. And there is the question and the issue of infrastructure. For example, in Malaysia, the internet penetration rate is around 83%, if I'm not mistaken. It's quite high, but going into a year of pandemic COVID-19, we then realized that this, the 83% doesn't really reflect the actual kind of like the logistics of education, because when simply looking at internet penetration, yes, it's quite high, but when we look into the education application of the technology, we are still facing a lot of troubles. because there are so many factors into play, not just necessarily the availability of the devices. It is also got to do with the psychology of the students, because the students are too long staying at home. The idea of learning at home is still an alien for them, even though we are well into our first year of COVID-19. And I think in Malaysia, we are actually improving a lot. The Ministry of Education has come up with guidelines to actually mitigate some of the issues. And there are various parties to actually mitigate in terms of the infrastructure issues as well. So that is the technological part. For the pedagogical design, the impact is on the teachers themselves. There is an issue of the technological pedagogical knowledge among teachers. So and also the readiness for innovative teaching strategies using digital tools among teachers. So more and more that I can see, teachers are now trying to explore different types of tools to suit different pedagogical designs. But there are also teachers who I think need more support from the ministry and also from other interested parties to actually help them being more innovative, using more tools that are or that can support the teaching and learning experience, and also the psychological consideration when designing online lessons, because probably most of the teachers are looking at teaching online is just simply a transfer of stage on stage when they did in a face-to-face classroom, and they are doing it online right now in front of the laptop. But when we deliver online lessons, we need to have more considerations, because when we deliver education or teaching in a face-to-face setting, we take for granted a lot of things, like for example, the establishment of authority as a teacher. In a classroom, when we enter a physical classroom, there is an understanding among the students and the teacher that the teacher is an authority. But when in online, it is almost a level playing field for everyone. So the teachers, they need to actually mitigate this issue and look into how can they establish and also control the psychological elements in their pedagogy. For the teachers and students themselves, the impact, if we look into the community of inquiry framework, we have social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence. So these three types of presence are heavily impacted in the online learning environment. Like, for example, social presence, the psychological notion of, sensing the presence of others in a mediated environment, that is needed to be addressed by the teachers themselves. The cognitive presence, and it is difficult to augment. It's not possible, but it is difficult to augment the cognitive presence in online environment. So the teachers need to be creative in the use of digital tools, different digital tools and platform to augment that kind of presence. And the teaching presence using innovative pedagogical designs, and that I think can help teachers to actually establish these three types of presence. And these three types of presence, there are a lot of literatures that can be found explaining all three types of presence that are important in mediated environment. So to wrap up, and I think because I've been given 5 to 7 minutes, so I hope that I've nailed it meaning within the duration. So I think to wrap up, educators, I think, need to mitigate this issue, to be aware of this education or learning environment and the components that are in it, to actually to be able for them to mitigate this issue. They have to be aware that there is a culture, even though it is an online platform or it is an online interaction or video conference or video call, there is a culture that needs to be promoted among the students, and also between the exchanges between the teachers and the students. The technology itself, the pedagogy, these are the components that make up the learning environment, and it is rapidly changing because of the COVID-19. Before this, pre-pandemic, it stays as it is, without much evolution or revolution. But with this pandemic, COVID-19, the changes kicked off quite exponential. And I think when teachers are aware of these components and how it influences their pedagogical design and instructional design, I think teachers will have a better chance in fighting this COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your aspect. That is very interesting, and I hope is will useful for teachers and educators. So now we will hear from Mr. Im. Hello, Mr. Im.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so I will pass to Mr. Im 5 to 7 minutes, and then we will come back to ask question again. Thank you.
So can you see my screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think that time is already over. So I believe I should be the last person today to talk. So just give me 5 or 7 minutes. Once again, this is Hyunbin Im, teacher in Seoul Technical High School. It is my great honor to share my experience about the Global Education Cooperation Project with the responses to the changing education landscape. My school, Seoul Technical High School, has actively participated in the International Educational Cooperation Programs sponsored by IACE since 2015. Before the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19, every summer and winter vacation, I brought 10 to 20 students to APEC member economies for 1 or 2 weeks in order to implement ACP, ALCoB cooperation project in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Russia, as you see on the table. So this is the table of Seoul Technical High School's ACP from 2015 to 2019. And this is a photo of ACP with my student and the student in Indonesia. Last year, I made full arrangements to visit sister schools SMKN6 Palembang and SMAN3 Padang Panjang, Indonesia, to operate an ACP program in winter vacation. But COVID-19 changed everything. The pandemic prohibited the Seoul Technical High School from visiting other countries. It also prevented the partner schools in Indonesia to invite Seoul Technical High School. As the landscape of international educational cooperation has been changed, we need to adapt ourselves to these new environments. Several times I discussed with the ALCoB teachers in my partner schools about what we can do under this pandemic, and we found the answer from online activities. After intensive discussion with my great partner teachers, Ms. Pitra, Indonesia, and Mr. Farid, Malaysia, through Zoom, we finally came to a conclusion to hold online international conference, where students from each school can exchange their ideas, opinion with the presentation and the Q&A session through Zoom or StreamYard. The first online multilateral conference was held on October 7, 2020, with the 3 schools. They are SMK Sungai Kertas, Malaysia, SMAN3 Padang Panjang, Indonesia, and Seoul Technical High School, Korea. It was hosted by Mr. Farid of SMK Sungai Kertas, Malaysia. The media was StreamYard and broadcasted through YouTube live streaming. Considering the worldwide pandemic, the topic was educational responses against COVID-19, and the 2 students from each school presented with the time limit of 10 minutes in each presentation, and we allowed 2 questionnaires from each school after each presentation. While there were several technical problems and operational mistakes during the online conference, the conference itself got a great applause from IAC students and teachers who observed this event through YouTube live streaming. After the successful implementation of the first online conference, we got lots of comments and encouragement about the online conference. On the top of that, we had several schools to join in this online international conference. In this result, we could increase the numbers of participating schools from the 2nd to the 3rd and for the 4th conference consecutively. Finally, at the 4th conference, we had 5 schools from 4 APEC member economies. The 4th online international conference was held on April 7 this year, and it was hosted by SMKN6 Palembang, Indonesia. The media was Zoom and broadcasted by YouTube live streaming. Participants were SMK Sungai Kertas, Malaysia, SMAN3 Padang Panjang, and SMKN6 Palembang, Indonesia. And newly we had a school from Russia. The name is Yakchuk City Lyceum, and the school, the Seoul Technical High School. As we had enough discussion on the topic of COVID-19, from the 1st to the 3rd conference, we moved to treat something educational topic. Therefore, the topic of the 4th conference was comparison of educational system in Malaysia, Indonesia, Russia, and Korea. This is the picture of the banner for the 4th online conference. Now is the time you have to think about the global educational cooperation of this year. Nobody can expect when COVID-19 can be terminated. In the meantime, we can expect that the face-to-face program might not be possible within this year. In this regard, we are now actively discussing about online exchange class with my partner schools in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Russia. A teacher from each school can open an online class for the student of partner schools abroad. Topics can be GCED, global citizenship education, or sustainable development, or cultural diversity among APEC member economies. In spite of the pandemic of COVID-19, no one can prevent us from collaborating in global educational cooperation. It is much more important to cooperate with the globalization because COVID-19 is not a problem of a certain country. It is a worldwide challenge to overcome. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. In, and I think that is very interesting to hear from different aspects from different country. As our team enhancing education, resilience to minimize and overcome the impacts of COVID-19 pandemics. So after today, we listen to many speakers from different parts of the world. So now for our sections, the panels discuss section, we have question. First, I would like to ask Dr. Hafiz the first question. For the third half is hopefully we have time enough now. We a bit late, but we have very interesting question for both of you. First, Dr. Hafiz, the first question: in the field of education, inclusiveness has been a key idea to pursue. So do you think change in learning environment accelerate discussions for inclusive education, especially focusing on that for the handicap? Welcome.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Nur Morakot, for the excellent, I think, question. And this is, I think, resounding concern among parents and also teachers around not just Malaysia and I think throughout the world about inclusive education, about students with special needs. And I think whether the changes in the learning environment, the impact of pandemic COVID-19, does it accelerate the discussion? Yes, definitely. Because, the pandemic COVID-19 has impacted all of the, components within education, regardless of whether they are, in the mainstream education or or whether they are students with special needs. And I think the discussion needs to be, pick up the pace. In terms of, I think everybody needs to actually look into the students with special needs and look into what can be done more to focus and to support them in terms of learning while this, pandemic, era is happening. Because if we look back before the pandemic, COVID-19 hit us, the students with special needs, they need special cares, they need special attention, and those kind of needs and attention and special attentions, they are not easily translated in online environment. So how we as educators can play a role and actually not really leaving the students with special needs behind. And this, I think, is one of the issues that are being discussed. And there are various parties who are looking into this. There are also developers who are who have been engaging with the community, trying to actually look into the technological advancements and also solutions that can help this this really special and also important class of students. Yes.
Thank you so much, and I totally agree with you. The other question I would like to ask you, Dr. Hafiz, there are many teachers from APEC member economies listening to this forum. So what activity or experience do you recommend them to undergo to nurture future talents?
I think there are various ways to answer that question. Thank you, Ms. Nual Morakot. But then what I like to stress is on the understanding of our own students. What how our students learn, because the generation that we are teaching right now, the Alpha generation, the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they grow up in a very different world, very difficult world as compared to us, many years ago. So the way they learn might might not be as the same as what we experience. So I have seen a lot of educators trying to model what they have experienced years, 10, 20, 30 years before, on top or on to these students, these newer generations. And I think it's a mismatch of pedagogical designs and also a poor decision on this instructional technology. So I think be it whether we want to actually bringing up a more agile, a more students with passion and grit. The more important thing is to actually understand how they learn and what are their interests. Like for example, in one of my classes last semester, I did. It was delivered online. So what I did was to actually teach or taught them using a Harry Potter themed teaching and learning strategy. So it is something that is new for me, but I think it leverage on what they like and what they know and what they love. And I think that is one of the powerful approaches that we as teachers can do or innovate to help the future generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I definitely bring your ideas and your sharing to use in my class as well. So then we will hear from Mr. Im. Hello, Mr. Im. Question for you. The first question is, would you say teachers' competency required to organize global education cooperation activities at school level has changed? If you would, how did they change? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, dear moderator, Ms. Nguyen Morakot, for your wonderful question. Yeah, my answer is yes. I believe that the teachers' competency to organize global education cooperation has been changed, especially in the era of pandemic. Before the pandemic, the international educational cooperation was done by face-to-face, where teachers' competency for knowledge-based and hands-on activity were very important. But under the pandemic, now international educational cooperation is operated by online. So teachers need to be accustomed with ICT competence or digital competence, such as Zoom, StreamYard, YouTube, or virtual conference. This is very important. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I agree with you too. And the other question, due to the pandemic, it is widely agreed that importance of education falls into not only delivery of knowledge, but delivery of emotions and humanities. So the question is, how do you think global education cooperation activities implemented by your school with many global students participating affect the student in psychological aspect? Thank you.
Yes, I believe so. As you know, the pandemic restricted human beings within our own residence. This resulted in the new psychological term, Corona Blue, right? So according to my own experience of global education cooperation, focused on online international conference of last year, every participant welcomed this event to enlarge his or her own boundary of life up to the friends in other countries. They could exchange their ideas and opinion each other through Zoom and discuss how to overcome the pandemic, which had a great impact to their psychological aspect, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I have the same experience too. In my country, it's never been like this before. And we think it will finish soon, but then we have like the third time of pandemic come back again. So now we are online again. And thank you so much for Dr. Hafiz from Malaysia and Mr. Im from Korea. I hope all our audience and educators and teachers will appreciate your sharing today. I will pass back to Miss Lee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the first discussion, Ms. Noor Dr. Hafiz, and Mr. Im. And before we close the first day of our forum, I'd like to take a quick screenshot. 2 screenshots, actually. We cannot miss them. So, the first one is going to be with smile. So I would say 1, 2, 3, okay? Okay, Professor Park, are you there? Professor Park, can you please turn on the camera? And please, Minister of Education and Culture, Indonesia, can you please turn on the camera? We are talking to Professor Park to to show his face. He's coming. Thank you for waiting. We can take the screenshot only with us, just for fun, right? This is a rehearse photo. Ah, okay, he's here. Okay, so I say 1, 2, 3, smile. Did you get it? Okay, great. And the second one has to be with funny face. So be prepared. 1, 2, 3. 어떻게 하지? Thank you, Dr. March. You captured my eyes. Okay, thank you very much for your time and cooperation, informative presentations, dear honored guest. And also, thank you for your attention and participation on Facebook and YouTube Live. Tomorrow, we also invite special guests for education and economy post-COVID-19 pandemic at 2 p.m. at the same time, 2 p.m. in Korean Standard Time. So please come join us tomorrow as well. I will look forward to seeing you all again. Have a lovely day. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank